Hello and welcome to another episode of Mystic Femininity. In this episode, we're going to talk about the feminine energy and creativity. There is a profound connection between being very tapped into your feminine energy and creativity. We're going to talk about how these two intertwine and how, by intertwining with both, you'll be able to unlock your artistic potential and bring in more flow, intuition, and passion and into your creative processes, but also in your everyday life. How you are is how you are. So being able to tap into this will be very helpful. Now, this episode, I'm giving quite a bit of actionable steps and some tools at the end. And hopefully this episode will empower you to integrate with your feminine energy and allow that to just blossom in your everyday life. Make sure you tune in, subscribe, and share this if you are really feeling tapped in. Now, let's set the scene of what creativity and feminine energy, how they work together. Have you ever felt like creativity comes in waves? So some days you are just bursting at the seams with ideas. Then other days it's a little dry. It's like everything has just evaporated. Now, when you come into the idea of creativity, same as femininity, it is very cycle-like, much like the divine. So there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be times where you're going to be in a distinct hyper flow. And when you don't answer that, you definitely will feel chaos because you'll feel like a surge of energy. So I look at a surge as more than enough. Like, let's say your capacity is at 100%. A surge could come out with 200%. So it's like way beyond what you can handle. And that is when that's where you need to make sure you're like very in tuned, dialed into self to understand when you're in those moments and making sure that you act on it. But also there will be moments in which you will be in a state of rest and intuition. So you're being very receptive. It's very yin-like. You're just, feeling, pulling, processing. And each of those things serves a major process in the creativity. Like, the thing that you need to really focus on when it comes to creativity and the feminine is that if you're listening to this, more than likely you are in a feminine body and you very much identify with the feminine. So that means having to put to rest being hyper masculine. And when I think of the hyper masculine, this is not some of these feminine masculine wars. Like, we don't do that on this channel. But when I speak about the masculine, it's not in a negative sense. It is just what is. But the masculine is very linear. It's very straight. If you think about corporate America was not designed with the divine feminine in mind at all. Even in creative spaces, more than likely, unless you're a consultant or you have your own business and so you can do your own thing, most places are built within the mindset of the masculine, which is essentially a linear, think of a straight line. So a man can start working at age 18 and he can just keep on working until he's 65 and, retires. Like, that is the senses of the masculine. Like, he may get a little bigger, he may lose his hair, he may get gray, but overall, unless there's some other physical issues, there is just a certain level of just continuity that goes with the masculine. And when you release yourself as a feminine being from needing to operate on that, you will be more rejuvenated and be able to tap into your femininity in the way that it is for you. And I also want to say, for creativity, you do not need to think of it as, oh, I'm a painter, I'm a writer, I am a dancer, I create sculptures, I play a harp. That those are creative mythologies or creative paths, but your creativity is yours, divinely yours. It could be the means of how you speak. It could be poetry. It could be art, creating jewelry. Like, it could be a number of things. So really look at it from a lens of that and being able to flow and honoring those periods of rest, honoring the periods of flow, and honoring your intuition is going to make you be more alive. Now, the feminine and energy creativity connection. Think of your creativity as a garden. Masculine energy is the labor, tilling the soil, planting the seeds. The feminine is the nurturing. So that's watering, allowing sunlight to do its work, receptive, yin, ding, 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 and trusting the process. When you get into that and really understand those things, like, we need both of those things to have a beautiful garden. Like, we can't have one without the other. They are both equally important. But with that is respecting each thing for what it is, and then being able to use that to your creative flourishing. When you are balanced, it is not going to be a situation where you're having to force ideas. When you get into what would be considered a creative rut, especially in the feminine, I often feel like that is a person who is not honoring the cycle that they're in. So an example to me is we as women have, menstrual cycles. There are 4, cycles that we go through a month. And if we respect each phase, like, there's phase where we're in the follicular right after our cycles ended and we are in hyper mode, we're in go mode. Then we get into an area where we feel a little bit more spicy. We feel a little sensual. And if we honor that, that can be great energy, fun. Then we get into kind of like a more fallish type of area, and we need to slow down. We need to kind of be more reflective, review. And then we have the actual menstruation, which is like a winter. And then we start over and, go over and over and over in our cycles. And when we are able to respect it, we're not forcing something. So when you're trying to if you're in the winter and you're trying to force this kind of beast mode, you'll be prone to hurting yourself both physically and mentally and emotionally. And that is not great in any space, and especially in your creativity, because when you're having to force ideas, it is not going to come from your divine. It's coming from something that is not of you. And you won't feel positive about what you're doing. You'll feel very upset with it. And that can, for a lot of women, can make it to where you don't want to be creative. You throw it away because you're not getting what you expect or what you may have had in the past. But it's respecting and honoring the cycles. And when you do that, as you respect and honor it, then it can flow and you get more in alignment, and then you can have the things of those bursts. Feminine energy fosters intuition, and this is going to help you be able to trust your creative impulses. Now, when we look at blocks to our creativity, these are things that I feel very passionate about, because in my own life, and I've also observed a lot of women over the years, when we feel blocks, these blocks it's like the air has stopped. Like, you have lost all air that is in the room. And often it's because we are not honoring ourselves, and therefore we're doing things that are out of alignment. So some ways that you may feel when it comes to these blocks, sometimes feeling stuck due to perfectionism or self-doubt, overcommitting to your responsibilities and leaving no room for creative play, and being able to ignore your feminine leads can often push you into burnout and stifle your creativity. When we are focused only on the doing and achieving, the masculine, we forget the power of being and receiving. it is really important for you to reflect on where you are and being honest about where your life is. Is your life juicy? Is it sweet, succulent? Or is it dry? Is it basically barren? And to reflect on it, you are not to put judgment on it, but to reflect on where you are. If life is really juicy for you right now, kudos to you, babe. You have tapped into your balance of the masculine and feminine. But if you're feeling a bit dry, a little parched, a little dehydrated, that is okay. Understand that you, this magical being called a woman, you have the ability to switch into the difference, into being in that juicy state. And sometimes we need to be in a quiet place, because sometimes in our desolate moments is when we get our deepest inspiration. And that can be very beautiful. It's not picturestic, but it can be very, very beautiful. Now, let's get into some practical ways to enhance your creativity. Number one, and I've definitely mentioned this in a few podcasts, cultivate stillness. So dedicate 5 to 10 minutes a day to just reflect or meditate. So you can sit with your journal and ask, what's inspiring me today? It could be anything. It could be coffee. It could be a flower you pass by on your way to work. It could be the way the weather is. It could be really gloomy. It could be really sunny. It could be lipstick. It could be anything. It could be something sensual. But you need to take a moment to respect that and jot it down. And you get to reflect on that, because we move in this world so fast that it makes it difficult to really embrace all that is. Next thing you can do is follow your intuition. Trusting the first creative idea that comes to mind, even if it seems unconventional. If you have an idea to doodle, to dance, or to bake, do it without overthinking. This is how you honor your feminine, your power, is by not overthinking. Overthinking, in my opinion, is a maladaptive masculine coping mechanism. We feel that if we can think and, go beyond the depths of thinking, we will somehow escape potential failures and therefore, be on top. Everyone wants to seem unbothered. And that's where overthinking comes in. And then that robs you of your ability to trust. And when you don't trust your intuition, you will eventually silence your intuition. And it takes a while to get that back, because you will now have to work with that in which you don't trust. And that is a very difficult thing to be, difficult space to be in when you do not trust you. The next thing is to embrace the cycles that you're in. So, planning your creative projects around your energy levels, allowing for rest periods. So, as I've mentioned earlier about your cycle, when I am in that follicular phase, which is right peak time, I am like energy, go, go, go. My brain is just moving, and I am with a notebook or my phone's notepad, and I'm jotting things down. And it doesn't have to be perfectly sequential. It just needs to get out of my head, because often when it happens, I can't sleep. And so I have to honor and take down the information. It's like the divine is giving you all these gems and you're not taking heed. Like the divine is like, girl, wake up. What are you doing? I'm giving you knowledge to share. And so I like to, take time and jot it down. And then I can pace myself based on my energy levels. So there are certain times of the day that you may be the most robust. Maybe that's when you do your creative work, if you have the ability and the freedom. I know that not everyone works from home or has that space to do, but being able to work within your cycles is going to be very helpful. For instance, if at night you get an idea, write it down. Like, keep a notepad near your bed. It will be like beautiful. And don't try to hold it in until the perfect time, because I can definitely vouch that when you try to go write it down later on, I know for myself, I will not be able to recall it at all. So it's like the idea hit, I need to jot it down. And then when I am in a different space to actually take heed on it, I can, but at least I jotted it down. And then the fourth step that you can do that are practical ways is going to be taking some time outside. So taking some time with nature, because nature is, to me, the most beautiful thing of inspiration. Take a walk, observe the patterns of leaves, flowers, the clouds, looking at animals while you're out, just taking in just the air. All of those can help you get a burst of creativity to process an idea that can then be birthed through you. Now, I'm not going to just go with some practicals. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. So the spiritual practices to deepen your connection. Rituals of intention. So something I just started actually today, beginning this podcast, is actually taking a few moments to meditate with my crystals. And I allow kind of a flow of energy just to kind of come through and connect myself with the divine and with my heart. This allowed me to be in my body fully so that I can be fully present. And it feels very serene in being able to do this. Another thing you can make sure that you do is energy cleansing. So I love to use some selenite and one of those cellulite wands and clear me out energetically, mostly in the mornings and in evenings, but definitely when I'm about to do something creative, I want to make sure that there's nothing harboring around, so that way I can be in my full presence, full body, and full mode. And there are some crystals, like depending on what you're doing, you could do a rose quartz for some self-love, some cornelian for more creativity, thinking of more of your, if you think of your chakras, think of your, not your solar plex, but your sacral. And your sacral is going to be that orange color, very creative, very juicy, very just yummy. And you want to be able to tap in. And you can also use some essential oils. Lavender is always good and relaxing. Some essential oil can be very uplifting and therefore help to put you in the right mind space. Now, when I think about some tools that you can use or some resources, there are a few books that have come to mind that I think would be very helpful in any woman who is endeavoring into the path of tapping into her creativity. One of those books is called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. This book I've read myself. It is a wonderful book. It guides you on reclaiming your creativity with what they call morning pages and self-reflection. I will say this book has a lot of depth that you will not be expecting, but it will hit you if you allow yourself to. But it's very, very helpful. I like doing it at the top of the year to just refresh my mind in my creative pursuits. And it can feel funny to do the morning pages because you will mentally try to escape it, but doing the thing oftentimes is the best way forward. So writing your page, writing something, like doing something, whatever that is in your creative space, you may feel like, oh, this is pointless. Why am I taking this time? But taking the time can be able to spark those instants of inspiration. Another book is Women Who Run with Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. It's a really deep dive into the feminine archetypes and creative expression. This to me is extremely valuable in this day and age where there is what I like to call a cosplay of what the feminine is. I see it all over social media and I cringe. And I don't cringe at the person, but I cringe at the actions because it leads a lot of women to be stifled. Every woman doesn't need to wear a designer handbag. She doesn't need to wear pearls. She doesn't need to wear her hair in a bun, or she doesn't need to wear makeup, or she doesn't need to wear these sorts of nail polishes. None of those makes the feminine. We all have different archetypes that we identify with, and sometimes we have different archetypes that we are identifying with for the different seasons of our life. Some seasons we are in that more soft, docile kind of manner. Other times we're more ferocious, we're spicy. There is just a bit of a kick. And embracing whatever type you are, and it could be a hybrid of sorts, is going to allow you to be honoring of yourself, which then allows you to honor your voice, your unique voice, your imprint of your DNA. And that makes for a world of amazement. And then tools that you can use, journaling apps. I really prefer a good old notebook, but everybody's different. Some people are more into the tech. There's something about pulling out the notebook and a pen. And I have a bag of just different colored pens, but there's just something about that particular ritual that really does it for me, of just capturing my inspiration and my ideas. But I will say, if you're not in an environment where you have privacy, then I would probably use my phone just so that you can keep it secure. You, as a woman and as a creative being, you have to be very mindful, not very demure, in being able to protect what you are what's coming forth, what you're channeling, especially in its infancy, because everything isn't meant to be out and open for everyone immediately. Some things are not even meant to be shared. They're not for consumption other than yourself. Sometimes the divine will be sending you a personal message for you, sweetie, and not for anyone else. And maybe it comes out, but down the road, like some time has substantially passed, and then you may feel called to share. But I like to have some protection over what I am channeling in order to allow it to give birth well. And then having, if you have possible, a dedicated space in your home for your creative work. There is just like when you go to the bathroom, you're there for a particular purpose, be it doing your skincare, taking a shower, doing something else. There's just a flow. Or when you're in your closet, you're in here for pulling out some fashion. We're making looks. So, going to your vanity, you're going to make a look with, your makeup, with your hair. Going to the kitchen, I'm going to create some top shelf artistry creation. And so being in that space just brings forth that energy, that intention for such rituals. Now, let's wrap this up. Creativity is uniquely yours. By embracing your feminine energy, you can unlock a wellspring of ideas that are waiting to flow through you. Now, if you liked this podcast, you got something out of it, subscribe to this podcast so that you can get more empowering creative things in the divine feminine. Share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from this. Like, who's someone in your girl clique that you feel needs a little spark of inspiration today? And I just want to leave with this reflection. How will you tap into your feminine energy to fuel your creativity this week? And till next time, make sure you're enjoying your best life.